The United States and Iran came to an agreement today, minimum of 6 months, to get oil flowing back up to the level it was on the 28th. Fertilizer shortage then goes to food supply, which means we're looking at the potential for significant food disruption around the world.
Does the president have the authority to authorize a nuclear strike on Iran?
Yes. If we decide to renew attacks on Iran this time, it's not going to result in regime change. If anything, it's going to solidify Iran's commitment to wait out and defeat the United States. Iran's not going to fire first. But if Israel and the United States go back at this, I think you could legitimately see the destruction of Israel.
World War III is already happening.
This is a house of cards, and it is in the process of collapsing right now.
A lot of this movement is a consequence of the initial deployment of the United States back in late February or the end of February, 1st of March. Those units that deployed then, they deploy basically with a 55 to 60 day supply. So where we're at now, day 55, since the start of the war. So they have to be resupplied. So that is a big factor in the movement, what we're seeing. What I hope most people that are listening to you and watching now understand is the tremendous limits there are to U.S. military power. That it doesn't matter if we put hell, let's put 8 aircraft carriers there. What are they going to do? They can't get within 100, 200 miles of the coast without fear of getting shot. So they have to stay well off coast, which means they're very limited in what they can do from supporting air operations. Remember, the purpose of the aircraft carrier was to eliminate the need for airfields to be seized, and so that you would have an airfield that you could operate from. No, now we got this floating airfield. The problem is, with the advent of hypersonic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones, that they are now very vulnerable to attack. In the same way that we saw towards the end of World War II with the Japanese kamikaze pilots. When they would jump into their plane and then fly it into aircraft carriers and destroyers and battleships and cruisers, because that was a significant amount of damage, caused a large loss of life among the U.S. military. In fact, I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think that in the Pacific theater, the Navy suffered more casualties than did the Marine Corps. If you think about that, the Marines would land, but these guys would be at sea, and the Navy suffered more casualties. I think that's right, but I could be mistaken. So, we've got all this very expensive aircraft carrier, but what's it going to do? Right now we're running a blockade, so-called blockade, but we're having to do it way offshore, stretching off into the Indian Ocean. And it's really more symbolic theater. They show a picture. Oh, the United States has just captured this oil tanker. Let's watch the Marines rappel down on board. Oh boy, you start ringing and singing, America the Beautiful and all that nonsense. Well, other reports indicate more than 30 Iranian oil tankers have already gotten through the blockade. So what we're doing is we're capturing maybe 10%. 90% gets through. Hell, drug traffickers take those odds all day long. If you seize 10% of our production and we get 90% of it to market, okay, cost of doing business. I think that's one reason why you've not seen actually a stronger reaction by Iran to this, because it's like, okay, it's wrong. It makes us angry, but it's not crippling us by any stretch. So the same thing goes with ground forces. The ground forces are not an option. I defy anybody to give me a scenario in which you can show me how you're going to insert a good number of troops. I'm not talking about a special operations raid, where you send, 15 to 50 guys from Delta Force or SEAL Team 6 to hit a target. I'm talking about a deployment of the 82nd Airborne or some other, or the 75th Ranger Regiment, where you're going to put 2,000 troops into a particular situation. Tell me how you're going to get them there. Tell me how you're going to resupply them. And tell me how you're going to protect them while they're on the ground. And you can't give me a single scenario in which that turns out well for those ground troops.